Arabic summer. That was really very important. And it was really came out with one important thing, that we cannot go wrong by really targeting certain important, let's say, areas or sectors in building the infrastructure. Why not to have railroads and roads that can connect these countries together? You have great opportunities. If you go to Sudan, there are plenty of crops that are really spoiled because there is no way how to really transport them to a place where they can really move them to outside Sudan. I mean, Sudan has the largest number of cattle in the world, any other country. They have the largest number of cattle. They have an enormous possibility of agricultural possibility, to give an example. There are certain comparative advantages in every other country that one can really build on. What it really requires to win. I think the experiences, which I have already hinted to it, the experience that we have had, you see, over the past years, there were lots of investments that were made here and there. And it was like a sack of salt. A sack of salt, which we see that every now and then they put water on it and it loses some of the salt. Really, as if somebody carrying this sack on his back, getting into a lake, coming up feeling lighter, but he has lost some of the salt that he's carrying. I say that these are the three basic things, and that are problems and at the same time opportunities.
Do you concur? Do you see three different ones on your list? Arab-Israeli conflict number one, the need for a more liberal, open society, and creating linkages, common Arab market, and so on. Do you have a different top three?
I can't argue that those are pretty important, all of them. The first one, though, is an interesting one because the comment a little earlier was the different religions in the region cause a problem. I'm wondering if we've just got to somehow evolve away from looking at it as a problem, but rather an opportunity that we can work around. But the key thing that you said to me that struck here was the European Union was created through economic things that were initially pushed through coal and energy. Where you have pan-European corporates that you've had since the turn of the last century, in the Gulf here we still lack pan-Gulf corporations that have deep footprints in many countries here. If we were to evolve the size of the corporate entities here, which we're seeing now, I personally believe that the development would come through corporates rather than politics. Because politicians, don't take this the wrong way, have an agenda to be reelected, or corporates have the agenda to make money and make profits and distribute that wealth to its shareholders.
Or maybe even more concerning, no concern about being reelected. We have over here, Martin, please. Just pick it up and let the board press the button.
Hi, I'm Mateen Khalid from Private Office of... Can you hear me?
No.
Oops, can you hear me now?
Is there a red light on the mic?
Yeah.
Bring it closer to you.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Experience here.
Your Excellency mentioned the Arab Common Market. Wouldn't you think the Abbasid Empire was the first Arab Common Market? And
I think what?
the Abbasid Empire, 1,000 years ago.
I think there's a microphone. Maybe your line is not working.
Sorry about that. Your Excellency mentioned the Arab Common Market. I mean, I would say that looking back at history, we have seen, 1,000 years ago, the checks of merchants in Baghdad were accepted everywhere from Canton to Venice. We've had ethnicities that were catalysts for cross-border financial integration. The Hadramuti Sarrafs who financed pilgrim trade, the Halabi bankers of the Ottoman Empire, the Banque Privée of Beirut, the dynasties like the Audis, the Azharis. Don't you think that the emergence of this oil-lubricated, command and control, autocratic, president for life, modern state system in the Arab world has actually detracted from financial integration? The fact is that out of the billions of dollars, I mean, at least $2 trillion of private Arab capital is in Western markets, not because the American ambassador tells them to invest in US Treasury bills or the Sixth Fleet is in Bahrain. It's there because individual merchants have made a decision that they would rather be investing in Intel than financing cotton in Darfur. Do you think that maybe there's something in the Arab state system that needs to be reformed before we can seriously talk about, developing this as a financial hub?
I strongly believe that reform definitely is needed, and that the Arab-Israeli conflict has played and used at the same time as an excuse for not carrying the necessary reform in terms of, let's say, governance, in terms of, let's say, opening up for the succession of authority and for developing the system, the political systems in the Arab world. I recall, for those among you who know Arabic, there was a slogan that was adopted in the Arab world and became very pervasive everywhere, which is there is nothing that is urgent as much as the battle against Israel. لا صوت يعلو فوق صوت المعركة. And this effectively was a reason, but more as well as an excuse that was used not to really carry on the necessary political, social, and economic reforms in the Arab world. So, in order to really move ahead, it is important to make progress on the Arab-Israeli conflict, leading towards a real solution. Because this in itself, if not is not so, it will really push the whole region, and nowadays the whole world, towards furthering extremism. And this extremism is the result of lack of, let's say, prospects about the future, and people, some of them, they become really twisted in their minds, leading them to use or to resort to violence. But in the final analysis, even under the difficult circumstances that we pass through, we can carry on the necessary reform, not necessarily with the same intensity that we hope or at the same rate of speed that we hope, but it can be done. We managed to have, let's say, under difficult circumstances, we managed to have elections in Lebanon. And we really did that, whether parliamentary elections or municipality elections. And this was done despite all the dangers and the problems and let's say the tension that sometimes we see here and there, that Lebanon managed to have elections that is known to be the most peaceful in the history of our democracy.
If I might just go back to you on that point. Obviously, you're indicating that political reform needs to happen in order for a country or a city to emerge as a financial economic hub. But I would challenge that to say that in Asia, they seem to have clearly achieved that, China being the most obvious example. Singapore isn't the most liberal place in the world, and so on and so on. What are your thoughts on that?
Actually, Sean, what I was really trying to sort of highlight was the fact that there are certain ethnicities or communities in the Arab world who've always been catalysts for cross-border financial integration. And maybe if governments could encourage them somehow, they could play a role. I mean, for example, His Excellency mentioned Sudan. The Lebanese banks have been expanding in Iraq and Sudan. Now, they are taking risks. Obviously, perceptions of risk vary from